Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon pros. Welcome to Pro Power Hour. This is a weekly product webinar training that we do every single Thursday here in the Housecall Pros Facebook group, also on Zoom. This is open to everybody as long as you're using Housecall Pro, or if you're thinking about joining Housecall Pro. I know you can find these on YouTube as well. It's a great way to come every week and get training. Essentially, what we do is every week we take an integration, a product, a feature, somewhere in the Housecall Pro universe, Housecall Pro system, and really just do a full demo, answer your questions, and help you with what you need. We've covered a plethora of topics. We've partnered with onboarding with James Greiner, who's here as well, and a few other folks, odds and ends, that have joined us to talk about kind of everything that connects with Housecall Pro. Phil is usually here. He's our resident onboarding specialist, but he's off this week. And we talked about QuickBooks, gosh, I think in November or December. It's been a few
It was
weeks.
December we did it, beginning of December.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but we talked about doing a part two, and I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to go ahead and do that. James, I know we had left off on bank deposits, and we had a few questions towards the end. I think we were running out of time, if I recall correctly.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. No, we're going to kind of pick up with kind of the money flow, bank deposits, refunds, etc. with QuickBooks, and with that integration there. And I'm going to do this. Last time we kind of used some old slides and stuff, and a lot less interactive. This time I'm going to do a lot more interactive. So I want you guys, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Zoom, if you've got specific questions about the QuickBooks integration, or just honestly a little bit of accounting in general, happy to go ahead and kind of cover everything there. Quick little intro to me here. I am a enrolled agent that's been working with Housecall for long time, well, probably almost 9 years at this point. It's been a long time that I've been with them. This isn't anything with Housecall Pro's accounting platform. This is me coming in completely separate as a expert in the field, working in specifically the accounting, tax, and QuickBooks area. HCP accounting, they don't work in QuickBooks, so this is definitely focusing more on that. So keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, a lot of what we're going to be talking about here is solely focused on that, and also going to be more accounting and tax law, which is a little different than what HCP accounting kind of gets into here. So obviously, guys, if you've got specific questions or anything like that on QuickBooks, the QuickBooks integration, like I said, accounting, feel free to pop it into the chat. I know Chris asked about, what, 2 hours ago, maybe 3 hours ago now, about any questions or anything anyone had. We had one person reply on there, but those of you that are live with us, feel free to pop some stuff in there. I'm going to start with kind of talking really the money flow of everything in here. That's where a lot of people kind of get screwed up, is the money flow and really the process flow between Housecall Pro and QuickBooks. And that's where even, quite frankly, accountants. I had a meeting with an accountant yesterday that I ended up training on how to use Housecall Pro and QuickBooks together because they had the money flow messed up. So it's really easy to do. And that's why we want to offer these things. There's a huge library that Housecall Pro has. I believe that most of the stuff that I did, Chris, did we ever get that in the help center, or is that still just all in the mastermind group?
There is a mastermind document, but a lot of it has been put onto YouTube now. So there's a couple of
Okay,
YouTube playlists with a bunch of past sessions that we did during mastermind.
perfect. So there's definitely a lot of different sessions out there. Same thing on my YouTube channel. There's a lot of videos explaining a lot of this stuff. So it really helps out there for you guys. So I strongly encourage you to go ahead and take a look there. But if you've got direct questions, I'll do my best to answer everything while we've got, well, my somewhat undivided attention for the next 49-ish minutes. um, so let me go ahead. I want to get my screen shared over here to my trial QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And understand, guys, this is not how your QuickBooks should look. This is our screw around and screw up QuickBooks account so that we can break things and figure out how to make stuff work. So please don't make your account look like this. Just kind of follow what I'm kind of showing you here, and feel free to take notes, etc. here. So the biggest thing to really understand with Housecall and the QuickBooks integration is always going to be the money flow and the process flow, i.e., when you do X in Housecall, Y happens in QuickBooks, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So the first thing, and we kind of covered this during our first meeting, is really going to fall around the fact of estimate what integrates and what doesn't. I do recommend that you kind of go back over there to watch that, but the key thing here is going to be that only jobs are going to integrate with Housecall Pro. Anything that is estimates, anything else is not going to integrate over into QuickBooks. So only that job is going to create an invoice in QuickBooks. And it's really important, and this is going to be honestly a little bit of accounting 101, is when a job is created, or more specifically in Housecall, because of how it's set up, when you hit finish, it's not going to automatically put money in your bank account because that's not how accounting works. What happens when you go ahead and you finish a job in Housecall, it's going to push an invoice over into QuickBooks. And when it pushes that invoice over into QuickBooks, it's going to go ahead and it's going to create income based off of the product and service that you are selecting in Housecall. So all of that income mapping is done 100% by the products and services that you're putting on the invoice. If you aren't putting something on the invoice, then, or if you're just putting random stuff on the invoice, it's just going to go to like generic sales, generic income accounts. You're not going to get the breakdown of commercial versus residential or anything like that. Not going to really dive deep into that unless we have time, but there are plenty of videos. I've gone over this multiple times on how to break down your income. And I know it's on both my YouTube channel, Waterford Business Solutions, and I'm sure if Chris has everything from the videos I've done with Mastermind on Housecall's YouTube channel, it'll be there too. But it's going to create income, and everything in accounting is going to affect two different accounts. We're going to always have, and it's considered pretty much double entry because it's touching two different things. So if we're increasing income, we have to increase something else. In this case, when we're sending an invoice, you are owed money. So since you're owed money, we're going to increase your accounts receivable account. So it'll increase your income on your profit and loss statement, and it will increase your accounts receivable on your balance sheet. Doesn't matter if you're doing accrual-based accounting, cash-based accounting, or anything like that. QuickBooks always works on an accrual basis of accounting, so accounts receivable is always going to exist. So, and accounts receivable only exists in an accrual basis. Again, this is kind of accounting 101. Accrual is going over what you're actually doing, not the actual cash you're receiving. That's how accounts receivable actually exists. But QuickBooks always has accounts receivable active, so it's always going to increase your income and increase your accounts receivable. From there, once you receive a payment on that invoice, it will decrease accounts receivable because you're no longer owed that money. And it's going to decrease this account and move it into your undeposited funds or your payments to deposit. This is a holding account to hold that money until it is ready to go into your bank account. And this is where I see everyone start getting screwed up because they don't, whether they recognize this or whatever, they don't take the step to properly do this. Once it is in undeposited funds, it's sitting here waiting for you to deposit it to the bank account. Housecall Pro and its integration is only going to automatically deposit for credit card transactions. Anything that you are depositing outside of credit cards, checks, financing, cash, anything like that, you are going to go ahead and have, you're going to need to go through and clear out the undeposited funds manually. And that's really easy to do. And you have to do it through QuickBooks. You cannot do this through Housecall Pro. Once you receive a payment in Housecall Pro, your accounting is done in Housecall Pro, because all Housecall Pro is a dispatch and invoicing platform. It is not an accounting platform. You have to use the invoicing, or you have to use the undeposited funds here in QuickBooks to take that final step from payment received to money in your bank account. Again, super simple, up in your QuickBooks Online account. And QuickBooks Desktop works very similar, looks different, but works very similar here. Don't worry. I'm not going to show you desktop just because I don't have desktop on this computer, but it's all the same kind of concepts and all the same basic terminology. You'll come up in online to a plus new icon. It's pretty much always going to exist in your top left corner here. And you're going to choose bank deposit. And this screen is going to show you any transactions, whether it's payments, whether it's refunds, whether it's journal entries, any transactions in undeposited funds that have not been reconciled out of undeposited funds. Now, that means that you have not moved them from undeposited funds to another bank account. So you haven't created a bank deposit. So let's pick on this. And again, like I said, this is our screw around account. So it's not pretty, it's not up to date or anything like that because it's not actively used. But this credit card that was received back in April of last year theoretically should already be deposited. So with that, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we come and we are going to manually deposit this to our correct checking account here. So we're going to choose the correct checking account, choose the date that we are depositing this to, choose all the payments. If you're taking 10 checks and depositing 10 checks at once to the bank, you're going to choose all 10 of those checks so that it matches to what is going into your bank. If you're using mobile deposit where it deposits one check at a time, you can do that individually. But if you are doing a batch deposit where instead of depositing $1,500, you're depositing $15,000 with 10 different checks, you need to make sure that you are selecting all 10 checks through this bank deposit screen. Again, this is where so many people's integration and so many people's accounting get screwed up because they skip this step or they don't do this step correctly. In QuickBooks or in any accounting platform that you're using, your bank register should match exactly to what is on your bank statement. If you've got 20 transactions for the month on your bank statement according to your bank, you should have 20 transactions in QuickBooks for the month. You shouldn't have 30 because you deposited 10 checks separately compared to the bank who did one singular line deposit there. Anytime that you're not matching there exactly to your bank account, you are leaving room for error and leaving an area where it could screw things up and cause a discrepancy in your accounting platform. And that's the last thing that we want. We're going to take and create this bank deposit, save this bank deposit. And what it's going to go ahead and do is it's going to reduce our undeposited funds and increase our bank account that we have chosen up here by the amount of that transaction. Super simple, super easy. And again, you're matching up transaction for transaction. If you deposited 10 checks, you're going to select 10 checks on here. If you had credit cards, let's say Housecall Pro, the integration failed. It happens every once in a while where the integration isn't going to automatically create a bank deposit here. We don't want to come in here and deposit this for $1,500 because $1,500, if you're using Housecall Pro's credit card processor, isn't going to be what hits your bank account because Housecall Pro pulls that money out from your deposit. So instead of depositing $1,500 and then coming back at the end of the month, beginning of the next month, and then charging you all of the credit card fees for the entire previous month, they're going to take those credit card fees as they go. Same thing when you're using WiseTech, when you're using Wells Fargo financing, when you're using Green Sky financing. A lot of them are going to take dealer fees from your deposit. So we're going to come down here to this add funds to this deposit and subtract out, put a negative of whatever those dealer fees are, so that this number down here, this total, matches what is going into your bank account. That is the most important thing to take away from this meeting, from this session. If nothing else, whatever you are putting into QuickBooks must match what is going into your bank account. I know that sounds kind of basic, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that happen. And when they don't have that happen, that's again what creates the issues in your accounting platform. That's why people are saying, oh, the integration doesn't work or the integration messed up my books, because they're not taking the time to ensure that everything is matching. The next area, once we create this bank deposit, and not everyone uses this, but once we create this bank deposit, the next area that screws a lot of people up is, again, we've gone ahead and we've put this money into your bank account. We've recognized the income for this transaction already. A lot of people, and not everyone again, but a lot of people do use the bank feed in QuickBooks. And on this bank feed here, you'll see I've got this ATM check deposit. Again, this is from 23. Forgive me. This is our screw around test account. But we've got this income test account and it's showing a deposit into the bank account. This deposit should correlate and connect to either a deposit that Housecall Pro made with their credit card processors or a deposit that you made through that bank deposit screen. If it does not, and it's showing income services here, you're going to duplicate your income. This is the second area, honestly, probably the biggest area where people screw up with their integration and with their books, is rather than making sure that this is matching to the payment and or the deposit of everything here, they are coming in here and they are going through and getting sorry. They're coming in here and using the bank feed to record all their income. And when they record all their income and they've got Housecall connected, it's already recording the income. So if you categorize this to go to services, and I've already got the invoice in here for $1,000, there's going to be $1,000 in income from the invoice and $1,000 of income from this categorization. Never match a bank deposit if you were using, or a bank feed item received money on the bank feed here in QuickBooks, if you're using the bank feed, to any income account. These should always match at minimum to the payment. Preferably it matches to the bank deposit. Just make sure that everything's a little bit cleaner, a little bit more confirmed, but you can match it to the payment. If you're not doing that, you're going to end up with discrepancies and issues in your books. And that's the last thing that you ever want. Excuse me, sorry. So that's kind of the income flow from Housecall. And that's really the big areas where everything happens. Any questions kind of income flow wise or anything like that, or any other? I mean, again, we're here to answer any questions that y'all may have. So if you've got a question off topic of this, we just kind of went off of what the most common and the biggest questions that are asked in the Facebook group, etc. That's what we kind of dictated this around here this month. So if y'all have got specific questions, throw them in. I've got another one that someone had asked and I'll go into that in a minute if I don't see any questions. Chris, how are we looking on Facebook there?
We got a few people watching on Facebook. Just want to say hello. Wanda, Ben, John. Christina, it's good to see you. Jason, um, more of a statement, but John had said my CPA told me to disconnect QuickBooks from HCP because it was double posting things.
That honestly, John, that's coming from your CPA not understanding the integration. And what your CPA is doing is rather than going through and creating all of the bank deposits for you, they're only using the bank feed to put everything in for you. And it will double post things there because they're not following the correct income flow. They're taking the easy route. And instead of giving you accurate numbers where we can get you a solid income breakdown, instead of getting you a nice accrual set of books, which is going to be a lot more descriptive for you and help you better with your KPIs and understanding your labor KPIs, your material KPIs based off of what you're physically selling, not what you're physically getting paid in, they're taking the easy route to just say, oh, well, your books are on a cash basis, but that cash basis isn't accurate to what's physically going on in your company. There's nothing wrong with it if you're just trying to use your books and your financials for tax purposes. But your books are so much more valuable than that. Your books can tell you so much information and tell you why you don't have money, where we need to, if you need to increase pricing, why you need to increase pricing, if you're having an issue with advertising, if you're having an issue with people taking equipment from you. If you are doing your books correctly, it really powers your business and helps you out to really grow your business. I've seen companies that have had bad books that have been stagnant, not been able to do anything. We get them a solid set of books. They start looking at it. They start understanding exactly what's going on in their business. And within a year, they're doubling, tripling, quadrupling their income from the year prior because they finally understand what's holding them back financially in their books. So anytime any accountant, any CPA, any EA is telling you to disconnect Housecall from QuickBooks, they're holding you back, quite frankly. I hate to say that, but they're not looking out for your best interest. They're trying to do the easiest thing and the quickest thing, which saves them time instead of taking the time to do it correctly and giving you the correct information there. Anything else there in Facebook, Chris?
We had one other comment from Christina. Christina would love if there's a specific that we could help you with. She had mentioned how to fix the errors is always a bit challenging.
That's a very loaded question, Christina, because there's a lot of errors. We've tried really hard over the past few years. I work a lot with the team that actually works with the integration here. So we've tried a lot over the last few years to get descriptive in what's causing those errors and exactly how to fix them. And sometimes errors are just errors. They're hard to exactly pinpoint. And while we can say normal stuff like duplicate customer errors or duplicate invoice errors, this is exactly what you need to do. When we get into weirder things where you might have a account in QuickBooks that you moved the account and it broke the mapping in Housecall, it's a little harder to kind of say, hey, this is exactly what you did or exactly what you need to do to fix this. So if you've got a specific error, throw it in the chat. Chris can let me know on it and I might be able to answer it there. But when you say errors, errors are very broad. And unless it's like a duplicate name or a duplicate customer issue, it's kind of difficult to say, hey, this is what's causing it or what you need to do to fix it without knowing the specific error. Everything else good there in Facebook, Chris?
Yep, it looks like it.
Perfect. Well, the other thing that I got, because there's nothing here in Zoom for us. The other thing I got is someone had made a comment when Chris asked earlier today about what you would like to know about the QuickBooks Housecall Pro integration. Someone made the comment that they would really like to have the Let me get over here. Half the HCP expense cards integrate just like any other bank transaction where it's under your bank transactions feed here, instead of how Housecall Pro currently integrates with the HCP cards here. Um, and while I understand that, honestly, I was part of the reason it's designed the way. Love me, hate me. It's better than where we initially were going with this. Please keep that in mind. The issue with HCP expense cards is they're not an actual bank account. QuickBooks only integrates with certain banks. So HCP and the way their cards work is not something that QuickBooks is open to integrating or has the ability to integrate with. So we can't make it show up here on the bank transaction screen, unfortunately, as much as we would love to make that happen. So what we came up with instead was to basically create the register where we're pushing everything in. And it's a little more difficult. I get that. I understand because you're having to manually modify every single transaction here. So we put it all to an HCP expense card expense account so that you can modify each and every one of those transactions. It's definitely a little more time consuming. I understand that. But due to the limitations that QuickBooks has, this was the best thing that we could come up with so that you had a similar interface, a similar working area here where you could easily modify. Everything came over automatically, just kind of like you had on the bank feed or the bank transaction list, but you weren't having to manually key everything in, because that's really about the only other option that we have is you would have to manually key in every single transaction. And while that's not horrible in any way, shape, or form, it's definitely a lot more time consuming than having to fix certain or just fix the expense category there. So it's not ideal. I totally understand that. I get that. I respect it. But due to the limitations that QuickBooks gives us on what can integrate on the bank feed, this was the closest thing that we could come up with on those bank transactions there. AJ asks, can we touch on reconciling, specifically parent and child accounts, such as a debit card attached to a checking account or primary credit cards and authorized user cards? AJ, this is going to be kind of another loaded question because it's really going to depend on your bank here. Let me please say that. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use big banks here. Please understand this because I can't go to every single credit union in the US. I can't go to every regional bank in the US. Trust me, my firm works in well over 600 banks. I don't understand how 90% of them work because my bookkeepers deal with that, not even me. So I can't even tell you how most of these banks work myself. But I can tell you if we look standardized on how QuickBooks is going to work on the bank feed and how QuickBooks is going to work reconciling. When you've got a parent-child account, and you can see this exactly here in my HCP credit card account. I mean, we've already got this set up. This HCP card is the parent card, and then you've got the Brennan card and the James card. These are child credit cards that are sitting in here underneath this parent account. Now, let's pick on Chase. Chase, whenever you integrate with the bank feed and you are using one of their credit cards, whether it be the Chase Business Inc. or their unlimited cash card or whatever it may be, to have each and every card's transactions come over through the bank feed, this bank transaction screen, you have to have a separate account for each and every card. When you have that separate account for each and every card, that means only the transactions for that card are going to come through the child account. It looks kind of ugly on the balance sheet because you're going to see all of the expenses, but the payments are only going to come through on the parent account or on the primary card on the account there. So typically what we have to do with Chase cards is we have to exactly what I've done here with my HCP card. We create a Chase credit card parent account, and then each and every card that you have on that account has its own separate accounts that we can connect it to the bank feed. That bank feed allows us to port in all of the expenses, record all of the expenses, categorize all the expenses, etc. One of those cards is going to have the payments that you put to it so that we can categorize everything there. At the end of the month or at the end of the billing period, we're going to come in and we're going to reconcile only the parent card here, because the parent card is going to show us all transactions for all cards. It's going to show us all of the transactions under Brennan, all of the transactions under James, et cetera, all of the payments, everything there. Now, this can be a little confusing because, again, depending on your bank, depends on how they break down this statement. Some banks, they're just going to show you a straight line. Chase in particular, you've got Brennan's card and all the transactions that happen on Brennan's card. Then you've got James's card and all the transactions that happen on James's card, and so on and so forth. So it makes it a little more difficult to reconcile here because you're going to have 100 transactions here, and there may only be 10 per card here. So you've got to reconcile this parent account. Go down the bank statement, choose the 10 transactions under Brennan's account, then scroll back up to the top, choose the 10 transactions under James's account, scroll back to the top, repeat, scroll to the top, repeat until you select all of the transactions to reconcile that card in full. Now, what it will do, or what it will eventually do, is it will reconcile to the bank statement, because again, all of your expenses, all of your payments, everything going on in this card is going to be listed here underneath the parent account. So it should reconcile to that statement as long as everything was entered. But on your balance sheet, you're going to see negatives for Brennan, negatives for all of the child cards, because only one card is receiving those payments there. Again, that's why we create this parent account, because you can look at the bottom line on the balance sheet. It'll show us a total for the Chase cards so that we can look at it that way. But it does look a little ugly. Now, as far as what you were talking about with the debit card, I personally don't know of a bank where the bank feed requires the debit card to integrate separately. Credit cards, yes, Bank of America's like that, Chase is like that. There's multiple credit unions, multiple regional banks that are like that, where we have to do separate accounts for each and every card underneath a credit card account. Even though it's one account, each card is its own separate account in QuickBooks. Not its own separate account with the bank, but its own separate account with QuickBooks. A little bit of a differentiation there. But as far as debit cards go, I don't know of a singular bank that has their debit cards that integrate separately. If your bank is like that, though, it's going to be the same concept, where you go ahead and have a child or a subbed account and you're reconciling the parent bank account here. The important thing, though, is going to be only ever set up subbed or child bank accounts or credit card accounts when it is an issue with the bank feed connecting, not a situation where you are setting up sub or child accounts due to organization or anything like that. Like I could create a checking account and then checking 2, checking 3, checking 3, 4, etc. here. And I could do that. But if I went to reconcile checking 1 up here, and checking 1 was a physical bank account, all the transactions for checking 2, 3, and 4 would also show up there. So we're only using the parent child when it comes to bank accounts and credit card accounts to group things together that are one account, one bank statement. And we're only doing this due to the bank feed, this bank transaction screen, pretty much requiring us to do this for it to work. Hopefully that makes sense there, AJ. Chris, any other questions in Facebook?
I don't see any other questions except for Christina. And Christina, I'm chasing that down for you. Just asking for an off-topic KPI. If we have any kinds of things. So I'm looking for that.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I have one more subject that someone had thrown into the Facebook group earlier, so I'm going to cover that one kind of real quick. And I'm also going to say before I kind of jump in on this, I don't 100% know the answer to this. I'm going to follow up with the QuickBooks integration team. I do know due to QuickBooks changing a lot of stuff, updating a lot of stuff, a lot of the API between Housecall and QuickBooks is having to be updated. So there's a massive rebuild going on in this integration right now anyway. Now, the overall goal of this rebuild is that you guys are never going to see anything. Before it's rolled mainstream, it's rolled out to me and I break it. I do a good job with breaking things. Then it's rolled out to a select handful of pros that have agreed to this and or pros that we're working in their accounts so that we can see it in the real world live action and work with it before it's finally rolled out to the general public. So generally by the time it gets to y'all, we've broken everything that can possibly be broken. So you guys aren't really going to notice any change in anything going on here. But it is causing a massive rebuild of the integration. Now, the question that ultimately came out of everything was someone wanted a better integration with inventory in QuickBooks. And what I will say is you can currently integrate with inventory in QuickBooks. It's not easy. It's definitely not pretty because it's not a situation where Housecall Pro doesn't allow you to integrate with the inventory items or inventory products and services natively through QuickBooks and through their integration. You've got to set up your price book in Housecall with materials and everything. And then you are going to have to manually come in to QuickBooks and you're going to need to edit each and every individual product and service and change it from a service to an inventory item to track inventory in QuickBooks. Now, once you do this, inventory will work. You'll be able to buy inventory, sell inventory, track how much inventory you have on hand, track exactly what your cost of goods sold is when you're selling this stuff. It works beautifully. It works great. It does integrate. It's just a situation of it doesn't do it automatically. We've got to come in here and we've got to manually, for each and every item that you want to track inventory for, edit, manually select each and every one of these, manually change it to an inventory item, save it, and then it will work. Then you've got to, in QuickBooks, again, put in your initial quantity on hand, put in everything there. The other thing to keep in mind is, at least currently and for the foreseeable future, Housecall Pro only integrates on the sales side of QuickBooks. So if you're trying to track inventory, you've got to use bills and expenses, but mainly bills or purchase orders in QuickBooks to acquire that inventory, to increase your inventory on hand. And then in Housecall, you'll use that product and service on an invoice to reduce that inventory on hand. So you're not doing everything through Housecall. Again, like I said at the beginning of this session here, at the beginning of the meeting, Housecall Pro is for invoicing, dispatching, and customer management. It is not an accounting platform. It is not tracking all of your financial metrics. It is not tracking anything like that. Even if you're using HCP accounting, it is a rudimentary tax-based accounting platform. It is not something where you're going to get super complicated with pulling specific labor margins and breaking down your labor and breaking down your income and breaking down your cost of goods sold. That's not what their HCP accounting is designed to do, because that is so specific to each and every customer. QuickBooks is the accounting platform. Everything that comes to expenses, everything that comes to management of everything, etc., is all done through QuickBooks. So keep that in mind there. AJ. Yeah. Yeah, AJ, it sounds like your issue with the parent-child is those balances. There is a fix that you could do, AJ. If it really bothers you, is every single month you could journal entry the negatives up to the parent card there, and just literally take whatever balance at the end of each month on your balance sheet, take it to the parent card, and those will zero each other out so you can reconcile it as a $0 transaction if you want it to look better. We will do that for some clients that prefer to look at it that way, but it's not necessary. Cool. I think that covers all of the questions that were asked directly to us. Chris, anything else you have? Do we want to run into refunds, or do we want to kind of pause here and maybe do in another 3 months or so a follow-up where we kind of do refunds and things there?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, let's maybe table that and we can do refunds. Yeah, we can revisit in a couple months. I'm definitely open to that. I'm checking Facebook, y'all. One last chance. If there's any other questions? See, we still have a few people viewing here. James, there was one other post. I'm looking through some questions. Shout out
mhm.
to Lauren Jean. Y'all, she's always collecting your questions so we can try and discuss them on Power Hour.
She does a
Um,
good job trying to get me integrated on those questions that are me related.
oh, where was that question? You answered a couple of these questions, which is great. And then, oh, it was from Wesley here.
Okay.
He says, all of our projects, this is a post that he made, so this may sound familiar to you. All of our projects, multiple services are being sourced to miscellaneous services on our P&L statement in QuickBooks. Why?
Mhm.
How do I prevent this from happening and instead have the services properly sourced in QuickBooks?
So that all comes down to income mapping, like I was talking about earlier. The income in your QuickBooks is all dictated by your product and service that you select on the invoice. Each product and service can only go to one income account. That's always going to be the case. That's all it can do. You've got to make sure, and you can do this natively in Housecall now. It's been around probably about a year and a half now, I think, is when we finally got it rolled out. Might be a little off there. Time just flows together some days. um, but I think for about a year and a half now, you've had the ability in Housecall when you're setting up your price book, if you're integrated with QuickBooks, to go ahead and choose what income account that product and service maps to in QuickBooks. You've either got to do that in Housecall, and that will affect the products and services going forward in future, or you've got to go to your product and service list where we just were in QuickBooks, edit each and every individual product and service, change its mapping in QuickBooks. And in QuickBooks, you could choose to update that transaction historically. When you choose to go ahead and update that transaction historically, it will go ahead and allow you to go in here, and your P&L for all of time will move that one product and service to the correct income account that you chose for that. But you have to use that product and service out of the price book. You can't be creating custom products and services. You can't be changing the name of the product and service. You have to select the product and service out of the price book directly with no modifications to the display name. You can only modify the description. When you modify the description, that will still integrate over correctly with the income mapping. But anything else will not integrate with the income mapping, and it will go over as generic sales. So that's super important. We've done on my YouTube channel that Chris already threw in the Zoom. I've got several videos on that. In the mastermind document, we've done several videos on income mapping. So I definitely recommend that you go and watch that. That'll give you a lot more in-depth, showing you exactly step by step what you need to do, showing you exactly how that works. I highly encourage you to do that. That's one of the best features of having Housecall Pro integrated with QuickBooks. For a lot of my clients, we're breaking down so that they can see what are they doing in installs versus service, or residential versus commercial, or plumbing versus HVAC. Depends on your industry as to kind of what we're doing. If you're in like Chris, where we were doing pressure washing and house washing and exterior cleaning, we break things down in that area more into soft wash versus power wash, or things like that, surface versus building. We kind of break things down all based off of what the client wants there. And again, the reason we want House Call integrated, because now we can tell you what is the income on each and every one of these things here. That is so, so important to get everything kind of taken care of there. It is really a great way to make sure that you're marketing to the correct areas and able to grow the most profitable centers. Wow, that's a word, of your business so that you are, again, mastering and enhancing your business there.
Thank you.
Hopefully that answers that one for you, Wesley, if you were with us tonight. Um, Rian, yeah, I'm not going to try that name. I apologize. Asked us in Zoom here, Chris, off topic, but does HCP integrate with Google Maps or Google Earth?
That's a great question. In terms of Google Maps, you should be able to, if you're using the mobile app, if you're trying to navigate to a job or an estimate or a job site, if you click on the address, it should, the first time you do it, it'll ask you, do you want to open Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, whatever GPS you have on your phone, and then it will always choose that going forward. So when you click the address, it should open Google Maps. That is the only integration with Maps. We do have some integrations with Google My Business, which is a little bit different. Obviously, it shows you on Maps, but it's not a direct integration with Maps. So if you want more info on that, we can get that to you. I encourage you tomorrow to join us for office hours. I'm actually going to drop the link to those right now. Here we go. Office hours and for Money Mastery. I'll talk about that in a second. Office hours, that happens every Friday. Tomorrow's our first office hours. Jessica Peterson will be with me. So anything you need to know about Housecall Pro, you want to maximize your account, come join us. We're gonna do a quick tutorial on Marketing Center and give you guys some ideas on how you can be marketing your business. But floor is open for any kind of discussion. You'll be able to join us live on video if you choose. So encourage you to do that, and we can help you a little bit further.
Absolutely. Oh, cool. That puts us almost at 7 here. I'm not seeing any other questions come through.
Yes, I will send you that email.
Um, Anything else you have to add, Chris, there?
Um, no, I think that will cover it for today, James. Really appreciate you doing this. We'll do it again in a couple of months.
Absolutely.
Let you get through tax season and whatnot.
Yeah, let's wait until kind of like May, maybe. It's a little
Definitely.
bit chaotic right now.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely, guys. Thanks for joining. If there's anything that y'all need more help with or want some more information on, or you're like, hey, I want to break my income down like this, or I want to make sure that my account's integrated correctly, don't hesitate to reach out to me. The best way to always do it is just kind of give me a call at 864-351-0852. I highly encourage y'all to do that if you need that. Otherwise, like Chris said, I'm in the Facebook group. We do Money Mastery once a month there, where you can also contact me or ask questions that y'all have. So that's there. We'll be back in a few months here doing kind of another one of these in the Pro Power Hour where we'll talk about everything. So that'll be really useful there. But feel free if you guys need any help to go ahead and just contact me. I'll throw something into the chat here for anyone that needs anything there. But again, phone is always going to be best, but you can also just go to the website there. It'll have everything there. And we will be happy to help you out. Nope, I'm doing that wrong, aren't I?
Yeah.
Hold
Yeah.
up. I got on to learn about it and now I'm doing it. It's always fun to do these in groups.
Oh yeah, I once did one of these where I was chatting with myself the whole time. Nobody got any of the links. That was embarrassing.
And that's why Chris is on here with me because he knows how to like double check and make sure that I'm following everything there. But Yeah, any of those links there, guys, feel free to kind of reach out to me. And again, I'm always on Facebook. You can just at me in the Facebook group and I'll be happy to respond there, and be happy to help you guys out with any questions that you have there. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you, James. We'll see you hopefully for Money Mastery in March. Let me know if we need to take a month off for tax season.
March should be good. April, I'll try to let you know beginning of April where we're kind of at there.
Okay. Sounds good. Y'all, Phil will be back next week. I'll be posting a poll. We're open to your suggestions for our upcoming topics. I don't have one picked out for next week yet, so there's a Housecall Pro product or feature. Phil's one of our onboarding specialists, so anything in the platform that we can help you with, let us know, and we'll see everyone next week.
Absolutely. Have a good night. Well, afternoon, night, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, James.